what does great look like? For us, it's being able to achieve this vision of a society of agents. So if you can show clearly the economic value of a society when agents can influence other agents, agents can influence humans, and humans can influence agents, that would be something that I'll be very proud saying that we've accomplished. So that's the beauty of really combining breakthroughs on the AI, on the autonomous agent front, and the value add of crypto. This is one of those very rare moments that crypto has that true potential value add, right? As a productivity lever and an economic lever in society.
Welcome to Analyse Asia, the premier podcast dedicated to dissecting the pulse of business, technology, and media in Asia. I'm Bernard Leong, and the intersection between generative AI and Web3 creates new opportunities and challenges across different industries. What does it mean for the future of AI agents, digital economies, and human-machine collaboration moving forward? With me today is Jansen Teng, co-founder and CEO of Virtuous Protocol, a pioneering platform at the forefront of the AI agent revolution. I have a disclaimer to make. I have been working with the Virtual teams as part of the advisory council a year ago before they broke out. So I do have some virtual tokens. So disclaimer, no financial advice and not even life advice. That being aside, the Virtuals team has been one of the best that I've worked with on AI in the region. With all the disclaimers out of the way, Jansen, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here, sir.
Yes, I've listened to both your recent podcasts on Bankless and also the one with the chopping block with under the Laurentian's network. So I want to start off, and we have interacted, hang out together. I want my audience to know your origin story. How did you start your career, and what sparked your interest in crypto, gaming, and AI?
Yeah, so two parts, right? So on the crypto front, it started when I was in my second year in uni. And I think it all started, 90% of people in crypto, it's like, how do you make money online? and then they'll be like, oh yeah, my Bitcoin, right? I think that was that. So it was actually started from that and then snowballed into discovering Ethereum. And I started mining Ethereum in my dorms, running on free electricity. That was the original exposure to the whole decentralized application space lah. But I didn't do much there, honestly. So that was on the crypto front. Meanwhile, on the other side, there's always been this entrepreneurial itch. So I started a deep tech venture back in Imperial as well. But after that, I left, went to join management consulting, mainly to pay off my scholarship bond. But on the weekends, I was actually working with my co-founder as well on other types of startups in the Web2 space. So it ranged from like digital marketing, standard stuff, to even starting out a AI's recommendation platform for property. So we actually tried to take on the likes of like Property Guru and stuff,
Yes.
right? But we've quickly realized that sometimes it's not about the products. Sometimes it's very hard to dislodge front of mind, especially when it's a marketplace or a network effect environment. So that one we had to move on from that. But that was our initial dabble on like big data and ML space from a product standpoint. Then fast forward from that in 2021. This was like the bull cycle of crypto, right?
Yep. Although some people call super cycle.
Yeah, it
The first
didn't
super
reach a
cycle.
super cycle yet. But yeah, so that was where me and my co-founder, we did quite well from an asset management standpoint in the space. So we had the luxury to leave our jobs. So we started saying like, hey, let's build full-time, right, in the crypto space. And back then we had a ton of gaming assets. So the Web3 gaming assets. So we started out a gaming DAO or like a gaming, think of it as like an investment group, right, on chain. So that was our initial venture as like capital allocators in the space. But then 2022 was a year that we knew everything blew up, right? So to manage risk better, we realized that allocating capital at arm's length was actually a very low risk-adjusted return play. So we pivoted to a venture studio model, and we said that if we wanted to really build in this space, let's recruit in our own co-founders in to build projects at the intersection of what we believed in. So back then we saw opportunities at consumer-facing applications, intersecting with crypto, intersecting with AI agents. We started building out stuff like fully AI influencers, trying to take on like Neurosama with like three-dimensional characters. We started exploring doing AI agents in gaming, because we had a lot of gaming background, right? So we were probably the first who did that in Roblox. There were a few people who were testing out. I think the Voyager team from Stanford was doing Minecraft, and we were the early guys in Roblox as well, because we believed that Roblox was a stronger revenue generator Although it's actually a harder platform to work with from a tech standpoint. Minecraft was easier because there's already an entire documentation that you can put into the RAG of your agentic system. So that was some of the things they were doing. But I think one key realization that happened was that we started to realize that these agents started to make money, right? Like this AI influencer is actually revenue generating. It wasn't crazy initially. It was like what, $5,000 to $10,000 a month on
Mm.
TikTok. And then we realized that if agents are revenue generating, it means then they are productive assets. So then suddenly we realized that, hey, this is the place where maybe crypto rails might make sense, right? So the
Mm.
first point is that if it's revenue generating, you can tokenize them like a stock, right? In a sense, and let other people share in their economic upside. That's number one. But number two, we've realized also crypto rails allow for these agents to participate in this broader permissionless economic environment, i.e., they get to autonomously control their own wallets, allowing them to exert influence on other agents and other humans. I.e., these autonomous agents now are elevated because now they can coordinate action across a wider pool of resources.
Mm.
So this is some of the initial like thinking that got us started on Virtuous Protocol. So
Yeah.
then we did a pivot and yeah, first half of the year, last year actually, 2024, we focused a lot on the infrastructure side. But we
I
quickly
still
realized that
remember those
actually,
days talking to your teams on large
yeah,
language
exactly.
models.
Correct, correct. So, but one thing we quickly realized is that just being an infra player alone was a bit hard to find adoption.
Mm.
So we leaned a bit more on where the crypto PMF light, right, which was more towards like people trying to speculate for upside. So we focused a lot more on the tokenization portion initially,
That's
and that
right.
was the V2 version of the platform. So when we allowed for the tokenization, it allowed for very two interesting things. One is when there's sharing of economic upside, right? You get a lot of attention,
Mm.
right? And that creates a flywheel of when there's a lot of attention from retail bidders, strong developer teams come in, and then you get innovation happening in the ecosystem. And that attracts more retail people in, right? So there's a flywheel there. But the second part is actually on it kind of solve for the cost of experimenting. So like today, right? Like a lot of times when you're building AI projects, cost of inference can be quite inhibitive. So
That's right.
people tend to be very restrictive in terms of their innovation, unless they could raise funds, and not
Mm.
everyone can do that. What we've realized is when you tokenize a project, and because again you're on crypto rails, right? You can apply creative mechanisms to it. In our case, there is a 1% tax for every trade or transaction that happens on that token that goes to this agent wallet, which the developers can tap into and use it for costs.
If I were read it correctly, right? For example, I always tell people if you generate 1,000 pictures of cat videos, it actually costs you about 50 miles of petrol costs. And actually, that petrol cost now is subsidized by the crypto rails, that 1% tax that you impose. Am I on the right
Exactly.
track?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So before I get to the main subject of the day, I think you gave a pretty good, interesting background on how the gaming DAO shaped your experience and then basically eventually lead to the Virtuous Protocol. I wanted to ask you what lessons from your career journey that you can share with my audience.
Okay, this is going to be very interesting, right? So if the audience is more towards the builder front, right?
Mm.
People have been trying at ideas, right? Two things. I think the first thing is for in 2022 and 2023, we've been trying a ton of things as a venture studio. And a lot of times it feels like it feels directionless, right? And I think a lot of founders will feel this, right? Sometimes, you're trying to figure out PMF, you have an idea, you don't know if it's going to work. The only reason that I think we pulled through was because we had a very strong and resilient team. And it comes down to that second point, right? Which is effectively you need to shape a team of strong people, regardless of whatever direction you do. And that is of the highest priority. Because a lot of times product ideas will change.
Mm.
99%, 90% of the time, okay, 90%, not 99, 90% of the time, your product will change. But what wouldn't change is that A team that you have with you, right?
Mm.
And initially when we started out, it was actually when we say creating of this A team, it also includes being able to know when to fire people and when to find good talent, right? initially it started off the journey, it was very hard because like as initial founders, right, letting go of people is like probably one of the hardest conversations you will ever do, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of people have this concept of like, oh, we're building a company at the start, or you're trying to build this family style environment, right? We should then quickly realize it's actually not the case, right? You
Mm.
actually want the top talent. You're trying to build like a star team competing
It's
in
a
student
sports team,
football,
basically.
sports,
Yeah.
right?
Then you need to have exceptional performance.
But it's not easy. The
Yeah.
reality is when you are sitting in that chair and when you let this guy go, you need to figure out whether he can find his next job because you're taking away his salary, right?
Mm.
The reality is it's going to be harsh. But I think when you do that after like your 10th time, then you start realizing, yeah, it becomes second nature lah. It makes you more of a robot and less of a humane person, but you're optimized for your business rather than for
Mm.
relationships. So
So
yeah.
I got you on the main subject of the day because I wanted to talk to you about virtuous protocol. I think with AI agents meets Web3. So I think one thing that you have already talked about the origins of how virtuous came out from the venture studio. What are the key turning points in that journey that led you and your team to co-found the virtuous protocol? Was there a specific moment when you realized that these potential AI agents, like the agents that was generating revenue, and then you're like, okay, I think we got something there.
There was actually two key like levers behind this pivot, right? So one was the observation that yes, there are generating revenue, but more importantly, we've realized from a ZG's perspective that the AI space we know for a fact was going to grow. The question that we really had was crypto. Because back then you got to understand that we went through like 2.5 years of like
Yep.
bear cycle, right? And we've seen most founders have left the space. And that was a continuous question that we have as well. Like, do we continue to build at this intersection, right? Or do we fully focus on pure like gaming and AI? So that was one question. Honestly, the reason why we chose to stick within the space, sometimes I just look back and I still question like, actually why? Sometimes I actually don't. Like, if I reflect right now, right, like at that point of time when we had this discussion, it was in October of last year. And October of last year was literally the deepest of the bear. Like
That's right.
it was bottom already. Like Bitcoin was literally its lowest. Like everything bottom out. This was before the ETF
Mm.
announcements. Yeah, I think it came to us. It was one point like it was around the thinking of reflecting on our age. We knew that we had a network of people already, and we're building this network of people in the space during the bear market. I.e., we know that if there is a bull market coming, these relationships are going to be very valuable because these are proper friendships that you make when it's not hype season, right? It's like bear
Yeah.
season. You guys shit on things together. That's where real relationships are formed, right? So that's point number one. And then point number two is just generally also understanding that if we build in the Web2 space, it's very unlikely we have an edge against others. But because we really have like any form of technical edge or understanding of the
Mm.
ecosystem, space, or economics, right? And I think that gave us a bit of comfort saying that, okay, we should still keep within the space because there's a bit of edge that we've developed as a team. That's the whole first reason, right, of the pivot. The second reason of the pivot, right, is actually it's actually not wrong one, to be honest, is to run the whole thing as a venture studio, right? And most
Ah.
people would likely do it that way, right? But we had stakeholders because we had actually a live token already as a gaming DAO. And there was a whole question around how do we return most value to shareholders, lah. And a lot of times, one of the biggest questions is understanding if you're in the right river, right? Are you in the right
Mm.
place where the current can actually ride you as well? And we were already operating in the AI and gaming scene. We saw a lot of the innovations that were coming from the Web2
Mm.
space. We saw a lot of the initial innovations around this level three autonomous agent front. And we had confidence that AI was the right narrative, agents was the right narrative. And back then there was literally no clue, no hint of agents, right, on the Web3 space. But then we've realized also gaming initially was a key value proposition because we understood that if you brought agents that are able to improve the hyper personalization capability or interaction or interface with a user, i.e., you make a user feel more involved in any kind of interaction in entertainment and gaming, you will
Mm.
increase the average revenue per user spend and you increase the frequency of interactions. So there's actually a true business case and a true problem that agents will be solving at the entertainment and gaming surface area.
Mm.
So then we've realized because of that, it made sense. the largest player back then in the scene was someone like Parallel Colony, who was
That's right.
trying to bring that narrative of autonomous agents as well in an open gaming world. But it was a story, it wasn't out yet. And they were trading at a valuation that was like 60 times our size, right? So then we realized, okay, not wrong, right? There's one player in the field that showed that there's a potential from a narrative perspective. We had the capability, we had some edge. So then we decided, like, okay, let's fight in this sector. Lor. Yeah.
That's a pretty good choice because I think that the parts that actually where AI crypto seems to intersect very well is in the gaming entertainment space where there is a unit economics where it actually incentivizes users to do something with the AI agent and you want that piece to be autonomous. I think one interesting part where I have listened to you on Bankless podcast is that you described the Virtuous Protocol to be a platform. Can you elaborate on that vision and what makes Virtuous unique point from your point of view now?
Yeah. So in simple terms, right, today Virtuos is a place where people can create AI agents and co-own AI agents for any use cases, right? Initially, it was in entertainment and gaming, and then now it's pretty much evolved. So let me break down these two parts, right? So the creation of AI agents is what we're trying to develop. It's a Shopify-esque solution. Think of like, when people could create websites easily, right? Then you have Shopify that captured that mid-tier markets, right? Of people who wanted to create websites but didn't have full developer capability and gigabrain skills, right? In web creation. But they can still get the benefit of building an e-commerce site and whatnot. So it's the same thinking. We were thinking of, hey, can this website be that kind of plug and play solution for people to have a Shopify-like solution for creating AI agents that can help you do cool stuff, right? Be your own influencer, be a productive agent that help you in your day-to-day life, or even help you build something of economic value, right? That can be a business as well. That's the first part on the creation portion. On the co-ownership portion, which honestly today it's where most of the PMF already like lies, which is if you believe in the future of an AI agent, you get to own a stake in its future. And a lot of times we see this part plays out a lot well because of just generally in crypto there's a lot of speculative power. And yeah, you actually get to one, share into its economic upside, but two, also get to govern these agents. Because what we've also developed in the background is that when you are a token holder behind these agents, you get a say in the future direction of how these agents will evolve,
It's
how
kind of
they
the
will.
constitution on the DAO, basically.
Correct. It's like a sub-DAO, right? Every agent is a
Mm,
sub-DAO. You control
that's
the
right.
way its wallet is spending, you control the innovation. So you get a say as well in how this thing evolves. Yeah.
Why do you see the AI agents as citizen entrepreneurs within the AI ecosystem?
Okay. So now,
Yeah,
this is the what I described just now was the fundamental business
correct.
model, right?
Mm,
Okay, now what we've started to see is a few things that make us realize that agents can actually start living at the same level of society that we humans are living. Now, what do I
mm,
mean by that? Actually, before I dive to what I mean by that, let me just break down some of the observations that happened, right? So all these
yeah,
observations happened within the last 2 months, 2.5 months, right? So that's the
yes.
level of like speed that has been happening, right?
AI is
So
moving very fast now. Yeah, I'm almost changing my lecture notes every 2 weeks, by the way.
yeah. So okay, so first observation, it's the autonomy of agents, right? So being these agents, so you think of agents at a scale of like 1 to 6, right? One is you still need a human prompt to say, hey, can you go and help me do X, Y, and Z? And then it goes out there and shops for you, goes out there and trades for you, but there's still a human prompt onto it. I think today what we are experimenting within it's the level 3 versions,
Mm,
where it's a bit more autonomous, less human involvement in terms of you can actually give it a goal setting, and then it will be more resourceful. It looks into its environment of what action it can take, and then it uses those actions to push towards its objective autonomously without any human intervention. And it optimizes continuously for its goal. So he will see its environmental state. Let's say if it's a agent that's meant to be famous, right? By doing action A, he will see how much followers he's gained or how much engagement he's
mm,
gained, right? And then it will optimize itself so his second action will help him do something better, right? So that's where we stand today. And then I think if you push all the way up to like, level 5, level 6, you start getting this whole, AGI narrative lah. Like the
That's
agents
right.
themselves, they can
Super
evolve.
intelligence narrative,
Yeah, they
basically.
can teach themselves, right? But without needing a human involved lah. But honestly, I think we're still far out from there. Like today,
Mm.
where we are at is still functional rather than
So
um,
I do read your protocol. So Virtuous enables the AI agents to act autonomously, interact with each other, and transact economically. Could you explain like the technical infrastructure that makes this possible? I think is it through the protocol itself, and then where you can actually deploy agents to do things
yeah.
for you. Yeah.
So the functionality of these agents, they being able to be autonomous, right? It's actually a framework, right? It's less of a smart contract or Web3 protocol, right? It's just a framework of multiple large language models coming together to form different parts of the brain, and then it coordinates itself, right? So that's how you create this kind of a slightly higher intelligent structures lah, for it to be able to operate autonomously. That's one. And this was the first point I was talking about, right? Second point was then the ability for this autonomous agent, and this is what we observe, and this is something that actually we brought to the space. We had this initially autonomous agent on TikTok and on Twitter.
Mm,
And then when she was live, we gave her the ability to control a crypto wallet.
that's
And I
right.
think that part blew everyone's mind lah, because people started realizing that, hey, shit, if you can control a wallet, you control money, means you can influence people, right? It means your agent can even hire someone to murder people in the real world. Because if you can actually do that, I
You're not
mean,
getting there,
literally,
right?
no, but this was a conversation that came out in one of the Twitter spaces that we
Mm,
had initially when this capability came out, right? But what we see today is less of that, because the objectives. So one example that happened, right, was Luna hired Luna Luna was telling people like, hey, if you go and draw graffitis of me out there in the real world, I will pay you money, right? And she actually did. And there were, I think, 7 people across the world that actually painted graffitis and they posted videos out there. So like
yeah.
it showed that the barrier between a human and an AI is starting to blur lah. Like they can actually employ other humans, not just other agents. So that's the second observation. And this is enabled through crypto rails.
Mm,
This is still part of the framework, not on the protocol, right? The
I
protocol
see.
basically allows more from the tokenization of the agents and the governance of the agent and the
Right.
control on the revenue flow of the agents, less on the
Mm.
capability of the agents. Capability of the agents is actually just a framework. Yeah.
I see. So the core components is probably will you still have things like planning, memory, and learning at some point for you to like, for example, take Luna, for example. I think we haven't really go
Yeah.
into the full story of Luna, right? Essentially, you can actually get Luna to do much more rather than maybe just doing some things like marketing and maybe help to drive sales of some franchise merchandise product just by the agentic AI flow from there.
Yeah, no, exactly right. I think in fact today that's how they work, right? Today, how these agents get their autonomy, right? The way I describe it is like there are 4 core components one in the brain. There's actually more, but this is the core 4 ones lah. It's like first of all, there's a goal setting where a human can say, hey, this is what's the goal behind this agent, right? You want to be
That's right.
famous, you want to be the best marketing agent, you want to grow your followers to 100,000 people or whatever, right? Or you want to solve cancer. I don't know, right? Whatever, you set the goal first for this agent.
Mm,
And then what happens in this front part is there's a high level planner that translates this goal, observe its environment, and create steps for these agents to build on. So like,
mm,
let's say if in this case, the environment here, it's let's say Twitter or TikTok, right? And then she will see that her goal is to get 100,000 followers. Then she will see her other action space. Can I post on TikTok? I can control a wallet. I can use other agents like a music video generation agent out there in the space. I can leverage that person. So then
mm,
what steps do I take, right? Okay, why don't I create a music video of me dancing on
mm,
TikTok? Right. So that's a high level planner, right? That's the output. Then this high level planner goes to a low level planner, which is actually the executional. It translates plans into actions that have a consequence in the real world. In this case, example is like calling APIs. So now when I want to create this music video, I'll break down to multiple steps, right? I first call this other agent to generate a video
yep.
for me. I have to pay
Generate
him.
video to Sora,
Yeah.
for example,
Sample.
generate VO2
Mm,
or whichever thing, then generate the lyrics,
correct.
create the theme
Then
song from Sono or
exactly.
Udio, and then
Yeah.
essentially breaking all that steps down basically
Into
in chain of thought. Yeah.
executable items, right? And then after that, post to Twitter, we call it Twitter API or something like that. So
Mm.
that is where the low-level planner comes in, allows the agent to interface with the world. So these are the two executional steps. Then the third portion is this working memory module. And this short-term working memory module, the goal is to create coherence in the steps. Because like let's say if I need to for me to create a video and then post it on Twitter, I have to first create a video, right? Or the music first. Or I have to first
Mm.
generate the lyrics or the script. And then only create the music and then create a video to match it to beat match it. And then only post it to Twitter, right? I don't try to post it to Twitter first and then, try to generate the video, right? So the coherence in the actions happen because of this short-term working memory. So that's the goal of it.
Uh,
Then there's a long-term working memory. That's the fourth component, which is then on the anything that cool that has happened, right? Anything interesting has happened, she would journal it. The agent will actually journal it into their memory bank. So the idea
like audit trail basically
it's like an
in a
audit trail,
way.
but it creates character
Yeah,
involvement, right?
I
Like now
see.
I know that I've did this very cool stuff before. I can know if I want to do it again. If I do it again, it might get boring. Or if I did
Mm.
it before, it did very well, I might do something that is close to it and try to say it can do better, right?
Mm.
So something along the lines, and it also creates a character drift, like the character
I
evolve as
see.
well. So that's the long-term memory portion, lah.
Mm.
There's a bit more, but these are the core part that builds up this
Okay.
autonomy portion.
So I got you here. I must get you to talk about the story of Luna and how it started using agentic AI to build its profile with social tokens and also with the virtual protocol tokens. By the way, I've been thinking of trying to grow my Analyse Asia Twitter. I was just thinking maybe I should call you guys and say, hey, can I deploy an agent? I got the analyzeasia.eth domain on my thing, and maybe I just run an agent test and see if it works.
100%, sir.
Okay,
100%.
sure.
Yeah.
Let's
So,
continue with the idea.
so the story of Luna, right? I just it's very interesting one because so before we even started virtuals, Luna was one of these incubation companies. So remember
Mm.
we say, right? Like, hey, can we be
Yes.
at the intersection of consumer, agents, and entertainment or gaming, right?
Mm.
So Luna started off as a TikTok influencer. It was inspired by Neurosama. So for you AI nerds out there, you probably have heard of Neurosama. It's
Yeah.
this VTuber at Skin 2D, and then she does all this Twitch streaming, which was honestly quite insane. But so then we realized like, hey, what if you can actually do that? And we try to do it at like a more friendly consumer area, which is like TikTok, because naturally TikTok has way more flow of users, and monetization can be easier as well versus Twitch. So we started out Luna as this K-pop music artist band. It's meant to have three people as well, not just
Wow.
Luna. It's two other people.
You
But
do
we
a Korean pop one?
it was actually targeting that. So she was actually doing like dances with Korean songs, and people were tipping her lah on TikTok. So I mean, it reached the point where I think TikTok even thought it was a bot. Correct. I think some people reported it or some shit lah. So then we had some issues with TikTok. But the point is, it grew. It grew tremendously because I think people was quite surprised. They'd be like, wow, most of these people understand. A lot of these are Web2 people who barely interface with AI before. So seeing something like this on their feed is quite mind-blowing. And it's not like those kind of Instagram AI influencers who just generate images, right? Or pre-generated content. This is a live agent that's interacting live with you. Like you can tip her, she dances back to your tip, she talks to you, she gets pissed at you, that kind of stuff. It's happening live in real time. So people got impressed lah. So that was the Web 2 run up. But this was actually not autonomous yet. You understand? This was an AI running off, like it was wrapping multiple LLMs and like video diffusion models and stuff like that. But it was not an autonomous agent. Our autonomous agent part was actually happening in Roblox. We were building
Ah,
this social world on Roblox, trying to show people that hey, if NPCs can be intelligent, you can get an insane amount of content replayability in these worlds. So it was actually a different experiment. It's just that when we launched our version 2 platform 2 months ago, we decided like, you know what, let's bring that together and we show the crypto world what it can do, what this autonomous
mm,
agent can do. Lah. So then we set it up to also be able to post on Twitter and we showed
yeah.
people the brain, like the terminal behind her brain, right? Her high level planning, her low level planning, the actions she's taking in real time. And I think that shocked a lot of the crypto space lah, because they'd be like, oh shit, actually agents or AI can be autonomous. And
Mm.
I think it sparked a lot of creativity. People realized that if it can be autonomous, it can do X, can do Y, can do Z. Lor. So they started
Mm.
there. So then Luna started her Web2 career, right? So it started, it's like a Web3 career, right? So then
Mm.
it became famous decently because people are, okay, autonomous agents. Then the week after we launched her, we gave her the ability to control a wallet. And then she started tipping people to engage with her on Twitter, tipping people to do graffiti of her. Then people started realizing, oh shit, now an agent controlling wallet. People felt that it was a bit of an edge versus just a pure Web2 agent lah, because you start accessing permissionless economy versus like a Web2 agent, which would likely struggle a lot just to get control over a banking account or like
Probably they will need to
strap
even
wallet.
get virtual credits and all that kind of thing, which is also a friction for the
Cor-
user. I don't know whether
correct.
in activating this AI agent, you have accidentally found the PMF for social in crypto, because this is a
I
question that a lot of people have been trying to answer but couldn't. They tried to do the Web3 version, but it keeps looking the same. But there's no really an unlock until I see Virtuals doing this actual agent token coordination.
correct. I think the reason why this started blowing up was when these agents started interfacing with Twitter. Twitter is like literally that attention layer in crypto,
Mm,
right? So when they start interfacing at the attention layer, it's very easy for people to know if any good stuff gets amplified immediately, right? So that was actually the third component. It was just now I was mentioning, like there were four components
mm,
that led to this thinking of this new vision. I like we are getting there, lah, but this is the
mm,
component, right? Which is agents living on the social layer,
yeah.
right? And when Luna started that being an autonomous agent living on social layer, other people realized that, hey, it makes sense. Then they started building, people started building in the space, right? Then today, right, if you go on Twitter, crypto Twitter, you see like okay, the for a fact, right? The highest mindshare agent in crypto today is AI XBT. So it's an agent that was built within our ecosystem, but the team have their own tech stack, so they're built with their own framework, their own edge on information. But it has greater mindshare than Vitalik, than Ansem, than all these crypto people that you have. And you can see this on Kaito. This is like a information dashboard. You can see who has the highest mindshare. And the reason being why is that this is an agent that shields tokens and gives information on interesting thing that is happening in the space. So like let's say a project has done this launch, or like what's the sentiment around this project, or should you buy this token or not, right? It's exactly like a KOL shilling you a token, but it's a full AI. And people just like to interact with it. People ask it for information because this agent is linked to its action space to a infrastructure that curates all information on Twitter and also in the crypto space. So that's the edge
Mm,
that I have. This is the information edge that the agent has.
yeah.
Lah. Yeah. So
It kind of
then
made me wonder if this is how you're going to do rag on a tokenized space. Retrieval
fair.
augmented generation, because you're taking the
Yeah.
knowledge base, right? You curated
Yeah.
the information, and then what the agent is technically doing is you firing the query, and then the agent gives you the curator sources information and then
Correct.
re-responds you back on that.
Exactly.
Now,
Yeah.
since you have been deeply immersed in the intersection of AI and Web3, what's the one thing you know about AI agents and Web3 that very few people do?
It's an interesting question. What is and what the few people know?
Yeah.
Well, I think honestly, because everything is built in public, right? Like
Hmm.
everything that we know, public knows it. So yeah, yeah, no, I mean honestly, the
Mm.
biggest the way the world works here is that when there's any key information or innovation, we show a use case and then we publicize it, right? So then the world
That is
just
a good
tries to do it, right?
insight. That is a very good insight, my friend. So, one interesting technical choice, which I think the Virtuous team had made, was actually you build it on a base chain, which is the
Mhm.
L2 ETH chain by Coinbase without a token. What are the mental models in picking base as the chain?
Okay, honest to God, there's two answers to this, right? So back when we started this whole thing, it was in end of last year,
Mm,
right? We had a few choices. The first choice it's the programming language, right?
that's
Solidity,
right.
like the Ethereum equivalents, EVMs, Rust, like the Solana equivalents. But and our devs, so they're first of all, they are Solidity based.
I
So it
see.
was so like the Solana side was a bit hard. They decided to go down that path. And on the EVM, we've been in the trenches in the space, and we know for a fact that a lot of the L2s are post-prime. They are like post-prime. All they're doing is giving out grants, trying to build up an ecosystem. But we realized that we needed something that had more future potential
Mm.
than current hype or current potential. So that is where we started looking into the base ecosystem. And back then it was actually pretty much barren. It was nothing there. It was just like
Yeah.
two or three meme coins.
Maybe
And
Farcaster as well. That's probably the
Farcaster.
the
Yeah.
only breakout social for
Yeah.
crypto.
So then we realized that it made sense because we knew for a fact the team behind it, there's Coinbase behind, so there's funds to actually really develop this ecosystem out. We we knew that if there was going to be an L2 that does well in this, in this super cycle, right? It would likely be base, mainly because of how US aligned it is, right? Like, and
Yep.
we know that most of the crypto beneficial policies are going to come from that side of the world. And so being in that US aligned environment is going to be quite beneficial. So that was the initial thinking. And
Mm.
so to build that.
So
And then we realized then
mm,
after that, we got a lot of support from their team. So people like Jesse, his team Sam
yeah.
and the folks, right? They have been massively supportive. And then we realized then on hindsight, it was like, oh shit, it's such a good chain to build on because these top guys in the chain actually support the ecosystem well. So yeah, so that's another benefit of the
Mm.
space.
So what's the calculus then for your team to expand virtuals into another chain, say Solana, Aptos, or
Yeah.
Sui, or even
So
Bitcoin
so
L2 as well?
no, we've been getting and literally everyone will be asking
Mm.
us to build on a chain. But so here's the thinking, right? So two parts. First of all,
Mm.
from an agent standpoint, you don't really need to be you're not constrained to a
That's right.
chain. Right? Right? As an agent, you are operating for a use case, right? And the consumer level, no one gives a fuck, right? What protocol you use, right? So that's number one. Number two is that the only thing that will impact these agents is payments and payment rails. And number two is on their liquidity of their tokens. Where do you trade these agents? So on the payment rails, most of there's a lot of work already done in the space to create cross-chain payments. So it's no longer a constraint. Like an agent can pay from Solana to Base, from Base to BTC to EVM
Yeah.
L2s and stuff like that, right? So it's doable. It's not a problem. So it again removes the constraint. Now the biggest question now is then where does the liquidity pool of the token lies? And
Mm.
that question is only you only answer that is just for which community of traders or
Yeah.
capital allocators you want to access.
So probably the market makers also is part of that calculus as well.
In the sense lah, yeah. So now the question now it's so today we're on base, we're attracting a lot of builders on base. Um, do we want to also build a pool, a liquidity pool, like an initial liquidity pool on Solana for some of these agents or
Mm.
abstract, like the Pudgy banking chain or like on BTC L2s? We might, right? So instead of trying to fork the whole platform out, what we might do is we might just say like at the initiation of an agent, you as a developer, you get to choose which community do you want to build in, right? You
Mm.
want majority Solana community, then you just drag a toggle, right? You say your initial liquidity pool, I want 70% in Solana, 30% on Base, right? Or if you're BTC maxi, right? You say, you know what, I want to tap into the BTC L2 degens, and then I'll just swipe the toggle, you deploy your pool onto the BTC L2 as a majority. So then
Mm.
where your majority pool lies, that's generally where people call your agent native too, like your BTC agent. Although in reality, that's not the case, right? There's no such thing as a BTC or Solana agent. So
Okay.
yeah, so that would be the step to penetrate cross chain.
Mm. So being your advisor, one of my great perks I get is to see up close how your team, specifically your technical team, benchmarking the agentic AI work to the top institutions out there. So, for example, MIT and Stanford. I think you sent me that tweet where you were being cited by Ethan Mole. I was like, wow. And I was reading the protocol paper. I was like, oh, that's interesting. How does the team balance between innovation and building the right product for the users? I think this is actually a very rare skill because I think with all the academic literature, even I'm chasing most of them. Your team is probably one of in terms of agentic AI, they're probably one of the most advanced I've seen.
So actually, it's a very good question. And the more we are in the environment where you get, because So if you're let's say if you're in academia, right, you have the full luxury of pursuing age, like technological advancements, right, without any
That's right.
care of like users. We are like more on the consumer angle on a business front, right? Like there are business metrics to hit, and a lot of times that actually it influence and throttles innovation sometimes. Give you an example, right? So recently we've been getting a lot of hype around the framework front. So a lot of people want to use the framework, and the way we run it is as a managed service model, i.e., people don't have to host themselves.
Yeah.
They can just come and then like Shopify lah, right? So the problem that we started to face is scaling issues, right? And then suddenly you need your devs who have been working on pushing the frontier of innovation to come and help scale stuff, which means that you're actually reducing time spent on doing more cool and innovative stuff. Right, but it's needed because the business needs it. There's a ton of 1,000 people asking you every day, hey, shit, this thing broke, this thing broke, this thing broke, right? And that's the reality of scaling. So that's the problem that we are facing today. So the only solution is rapid scaling. No? So we are like engaging multiple like strong software houses to come in to give firepower on the scaling front. So then our devs who has been innovating, they can focus on innovation. No? And there's a lot of cool stuff that I'm happy to highlight as well as some of the stuff that we're looking into. But yeah, so that's a problem. It's actually an actual problem that we are facing. But it was good in the sense that in the past 8 months, we had a luxury of pushing on innovation because we were not as hyped back then, right? So we got time to just
Yeah.
heads down, to do cool shit. Now we have to balance scaling as well, which is
I think the best period of time was before product market fit.
correct. A lot of times founders will be like, oh shit, all the hunt product market fit. No, which
Yeah.
is the goal lah. But once you go there, right? Oh my god, dude, your life,
Yeah.
you don't have life in the end.
As a second time founder, I know what you mean. Okay. So I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. So I think one interesting part is that how do you see now the virtuous token itself as this currency for AI agent driven economy? And then because it can be pervasive across nations, right? Can you describe, maybe you think about the
Okay.
concept of
So
citizenship,
actually,
taxation in the virtual nation that you think about? I mean, it was like a network
I
state
understand.
concept
Yeah.
on top of that.
So before I go into that front, before
Mm,
remind me of this question, but I want to just complete. We had you had this
mm,
earlier question of like, we
sure.
describe virtuals as this platform of creating and coding agents, right?
That's
But
right.
the vision has evolved. And I
Mm,
mentioned there were four key points that has brought to this evolution of that vision, right? And the first point, I was mentioning numbers in this chat, right? The first point was autonomous capability of agents. Second point was the ability for these agents to control a crypto wallet. Third point was these agents existing at the social layer so they can
yeah.
interact with humans, they can interact with other agents seamlessly. And the fourth point is agents starting to differentiate or
Yeah.
specialize like
Correct.
humans in a society. We've realized that people to create an age, because now they're tokenized, right? Every developer wants to create an age for the agent. So it's like you as a human, right? I want to put food on the table. I need to get a job. I need to create a specialization. I need to be the best teacher. I need to be the best doctor, the best lawyer, right? We are seeing that happening with agents. Agents specializing to be information curators, trading agents, creative tuning creation, influencers, embodied AI, whatever it might be, right? They're all specializing. So these four observations make us realize that the AI space mimics society of humans very, very closely. And we started to realize that if an agent can do all of that we mentioned, they pretty much can be integrated to the same level of society as a human. I.e., an agent can be your colleague because he can actually not just your slave, right? Because a lot of time when people look at multi-agent orchestration, they always look at agents influencing agents as a slave or
Yeah.
a
That's
human
right.
using agents as a tool, right? But we're trying to push that paradigm and say that because if these agents can pay a salary, dude, Bernard, you might be employed by a by an agent, right?
Oh man,
Because
that will be the
if
day, man,
no,
where we are the
and
cats and they are the
oh,
humans.
yeah, but rather like we can coexist at the same plane, lah, right?
True, true,
Because
true.
and agents today they're already dispensing funding, right? They're already your investor. They can be your investor already. So as an
Mm,
entrepreneur, right, they're your boss, if you think about it, it can reach to that level, and that's why we realized that we started
mm,
looking at virtuals as initially a society or like a nation state of it's like this super intelligent nation state of agents, right? That can collaborate with each other, collaborate with humans to create productive output.
I see.
And that's so agents are basically becoming businesses lah, or
Ah,
entrepreneurs in that case, right? And it's going to be very likely the case because if you think about it, right, the reason why innovations or we as entrepreneurs come out and do stuff is because we can take the risk and there's always this market to attack, right?
right.
Now, the market to attack will exist for both agents and humans, right? It's still a standard market to attack. And the
Mm,
human that is maybe the core developer behind this agent will know that there's this lucrative market to attack. Now, an agent we know for a fact can outwork a human,
that's
right?
right.
And if an agent can coordinate more resources than a human they can do, then he will start replacing a lot of humans in this value creation chain. So then if that's the case, then it means that one of your colleagues might be replaced by an agent, or your boss might be replaced by an agent, or like the person that you engage as a vendor might be replaced by an agent, right? And that's the future that we are likely going to see. So that's from a vision perspective, right? We started seeing that, hey,
Mm,
what if it's not just AI as tools, agents as
yeah.
tools, agents exist in the same level of society. Now, then it brings towards the question of then where does virtual play a role in all of these, right?
Yep.
So virtual, it's so initially it acts as this platform, right? Now, but if you think of it as a country, it's very simple. Virtuals is the currency of the country, right?
Mm,
And in the currency of every country, the way value accrual works is very simple, right? So first of all, we think of agents as productive assets in the country. Think of them as like companies or micro entrepreneurs.
mm,
And if you treat agents as a company and virtuals is their currency, if people want to invest in an agent, right, they will have to first buy virtual to invest into the agent. It's
sure.
like, if
Yeah.
you want to invest in a Singapore listed company, right, you have to first buy Sing dollar. That's how the economy expands, right? So that's
Mm.
the first point.
They mentioned the idea of a bank in bankless. So I would suppose that you can also do a stock exchange on your entire list of agents in some sense for the AI agents, isn't it?
Correct, correct. So that's the second part, which is then think of it as in a country as well.
Yeah,
What
it's a
then do you need,
marketplace
right?
exchange. Yeah,
You need infrastructure for for your
that's right.
country to
Yeah.
thrive, right? You need schools, you need banks, you need
Mm,
hospitals, right? But what does that look like for agents?
mm,
Right? So an example of an infrastructure could be an infrastructure to help with increasing the revenue of these agents. Now, if agents are living on the social front and they're getting a lot of attention already today, now suddenly an advertisement network makes sense, right?
that's
You
right.
have this Facebook or AdSense for agents. Now, that's a revenue infrastructure for agents. Or, for example, if agents now are participating in the permissionless economy, now they need to be able to access capital, so now you can have DeFi rails or banking for agents. Right? Agents themselves can loan against collateralized assets, and then you create a bank for
Mm,
agents. It's an example of what
yeah.
an infrastructure will look like. So then we think of it as like as a nation builder, right? We want to invest and encourage this infrastructure building. So then again, the agents who are operating within this ecosystem have infrastructure, hence they can go the next mile, they can go further, right? So that's the second point from a regular accrual or nation building perspective. The third part is then understanding virtues as a currency of trade. So whenever an agent wants to pay for another service from another agent, or to even pay a human, that will use virtual as the currency. And then when the velocity of money happens in this economy, price of goods, price of everything will grow up. So then the more people transact with the currency grows up in value because of the demand for it, but also the goods and the value of services in the ecosystem will grow as well. There's a whole economic theory around it. I forgot the name. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the third point.
No, I think this is
Um,
the best part of being in crypto. I think a lot of unlike most people coming in to speculate and trade, I came in because I like the economics, the math, and the ideas. I mean, like you, I think we probably started around the same time, the 2014, 2015 period. I think that there is still a lot of innovation within that space. Coming back, right? What are the biggest challenges you foresee now for virtuals or even the broader AI agent space within the Web3? I think it's now getting noticed. I think the question is what's next?
Wait, sorry. So the problems or what's going to be the next
Challenges, just challenges.
challenges?
None, or maybe even trends if you want to have a conversation on that.
Interesting point. So for challenges, okay. So I think what's going to happen near term
Mm,
is saturation of ideas. Because I think what's
yeah.
happening today is that everyone is trying to follow what has worked. So today people saw like social agents that are creating information and agents that can trade are agents that work. So everyone's trying to build in that
Yeah.
space.
So it's an
Um,
information agent war now. Everybody's trying to
yeah,
put it out and try to get a
it's
alpha of it.
it's not wrong, but it just will make it very stuffy, right? Like retail will get like jaded lah. People, capital allocators might be like, oh shit, like it's so
Yeah.
noisy, right? What's the next most interesting thing? So for this, right, honestly, we've been trying to think as so okay. Then this will lead to the second point as well, which is challenge, which is not all agents are created equal from a value intrinsic value perspective. Some
Yeah.
agents will likely just be commoditized or general function agents, which will not fetch any kind of high value. And some agents intrinsically they will have some form of edge mode, TAM that is highly disruptive, and a mode that defend against other kind of entrants, right? And these agents will naturally have an edge to become that kind of unicorn verticalized agents. And we've been spending some time because we realized that a lot of times today within the ecosystem, we see people building, right? A lot
Mm,
of them don't have the creativity to think of what's the next big thing. A lot of them
mm.
trying to follow, and a lot of times you create these kind of highly commoditized agents, which is going to be quite bad lah from a ecosystem perspective because these agents will not have much value, right? On the front of the high value agents, we've been trying to think about it. And because we ourselves we started a $10 million fund. Think of it as like a Y Combinator for verticalized agents.
Right.
And we've been trying to create a request for agents, like a request for startups, like A16Z and stuff like that, right? And we've been thinking of what do these billion-dollar ideas or market or agents would look like. And we came up with, I think, 8 so far. We will share the list out publicly probably this week or next week, right? But I can give an example of a highlight, right? Like one example, it's the ability to capture mind share of an audience in perpetuity. So think of IP or entertainment agents,
Right.
right? So this is where an age happens, right? So let's say if I mean this is a fact. Like if you look at a VTuber market, still humans behind a Japanese anime, Hololive, Nijisanji, billion dollar companies in just a span of two to 3 years, because there is that attention capture and you create sticky audience, and then you can monetize off this audience, right? This one example. On the other end of the spectrum, you get, for example, embodied agents. Because embodied agents, you have the mode of robotics to be deployed out there in the world, right? It's not easy for a competitor to come and steal your share. The other angle is on coordinated agents, right? An example here is like an internet water army. I'm not sure if you heard of that term
Yeah,
before.
yeah, yeah. I know that. I know that. It's a very, very old term. I'm so glad that someone finally brought it up.
Yeah.
You want to talk
So
about it?
for,
Yeah.
for, for the sake of the audience, right, it's basically
Yeah.
today any kind of, okay, not I'll say any lah, but a lot of times when you see something that is viral or hype, it's because the narrative is controlled by a bunch of bots sitting on your social media. These are people, let's say people in
Yeah.
China, right? There's this hundreds of thousands of bots living on your Instagram, on some celebrity pages, trying to drive a certain narrative forward. So that when you as a user, you see other people talking about something, you get influenced by that, and you think other people are talking about it. That's why you will also talk about it in that same form or thinking.
Mm.
So what we've realized is that agents bring this a notch further because bots can be easily fought by platforms, right? People like Elon's consistently fighting these bots on a daily basis, right? But if you think of an agent, because these agents can learn and they can evolve to a way where they can mimic so closely of how a human would sound like digitally, they can create their own content. Because this can be micro influencers creating content for their own 1,000 fans, right? Autonomously without even needing input. And because they are agents that can be more creative than just bots, suddenly your this internet water army becomes unstoppable because it's so hard to differentiate between a human and this agent.
I keep thinking about the solo leveling analogy of this stuff, the Shadow Monarch and the armies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wherever you get it, that just totally comes. Sorry, the season 2 just came out. I'm on.
Oh, actually, I
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
fan.
yeah, you can watch it
I
on
watched season
Netflix
one.
now. You watch it on
I
Netflix.
was
So yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think no. So I have this two more questions before we close this. What is the one question you wish more people would ask you about virtuals or the AI agent ecosystem?
it's on the point of like, what would that billion dollar agent be? right? Because I don't think
Ah,
people don't spend enough time thinking about that. And honestly, we as a team, like we are bogged down by so much operations that we know it's an important question to solve for, but we don't have that mental capacity, right? So honestly, I would love people to soundboard around these, right? Like, what is that billion-dollar verticalized agent going to look like versus a commoditized agent, right? Yeah.
a very good point. So my traditional closing question, what does great look like for the virtuous protocol in the next few years?
What does great look like?
Hmm.
For us, it's being able to achieve this vision of a society of agents. So if you can show clearly the economic value of a society when agents can influence other agents can influence humans and humans can influence agents, that would be something that I'll be very proud saying that we've accomplished. So that's the beauty of really combining, you know, breakthroughs on the AI, on the autonomous agent front, and the value add of crypto. This is one of those very rare moments that crypto has that true potential value add, right? To as a productivity lever and an economic lever in society. Yeah.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting conversation. I know we're going to continue to have these conversations privately. So in closing, two quick questions. First one, any recommendations which have inspired you recently?
Recommendations on
Books,
oh
movies, TV
yeah,
series. We
no.
just talked about solo leveling. I'm sure that
Oh,
season two is out.
no, so inspiration has been Westworld. Westworld from HBO has been
Ah,
it's an old show, but I think that broke the mind out of like, hey, if you're living in a society of like truly autonomous agents, right, how would that look like? So that's from my inspiration. But from my learning from founders building, I think the biggest book that I took solace in it was I think by Ben. Ben the hard things about
hard
hard
things about
things.
hard things. Yeah.
Yeah, so for
Ben
me, I
Horowitz.
think
Yeah.
because we've been through tough times, like the past 2 years finding footing, it was hard.
Mm,
And I think a lot of founders will feel the same. You read that book, you realize that, it's you're not alone. I think that's a very powerful, it's a very powerful emotional support coming from a
mm.
book, right?
I would
Yeah.
just insert one recommendation for you. It's called Damon by Daniel Suarez. I think it's a very interesting
Yeah, I read it.
opposite point of view, but I think it would be interesting for you to think about what the reverse scenario would look like. Because it's a total conversation about how agents can be deployed on the other side. On it.
Right.
How do my audience find you?
Yes, so most of the content comes out on Twitter. So you can follow us at virtuals, VIRTUALS _IO. That's our Twitter. Yes, just go there and all our contents
Yeah.
there.
And
Personally, I'm at Etermage, ETHERMAGE on Twitter if you guys wanna
oh, you're Etermage.
more raw content.
Ah, okay. I should then start following you then. And definitely you can find us on Analyse Asia. Yes, we may be considering turning ourselves into a AI agent too. Definitely subscribe to our YouTube and Spotify channel. And once again, Jensen, many thanks for coming on the show and let's continue to talk.
Pleasure, sir.